Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you might be joining us from in the world today. My name is Meg Alexander. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I could not be more excited and honored to get to host another Power to Fly Chat and Learn virtual event. Now, we're going to be talking to some of the amazing folks from Skillcrush today, but before we dive in there, I just want to go over some quick housekeeping matters. This will be especially important if today is your first event with Power to Fly, and if that's the case, then hi, welcome. We're so happy to see you today. Now, the love is no less real for my frequent flyers. So whether this is your first event with us or your 50th, the love is there, y'all. Thank you all so much for joining us today, coming out and doing something positive for yourself and your career. Now, I do want to encourage y'all to keep things active in the chat. So if you would like to, please feel free to dive into that group chat right now and let us know where you're joining from. I'm coming to you from Toledo, Ohio. This is land that belonged to the Fox, Kickapoo, and Potawatomi tribes in my area. So if you know whose land you're on, please feel free to share with us today. All right, now as we go through today's event, I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about Skillcrush, and we'll be listening to some of their fabulous team members. But as we do that, I want to highlight that we are recording today. We're also live streaming to YouTube. Hi, YouTube. And we just want to make sure that y'all feel capable of participating in any way you want to. So you are always welcome to turn your cameras on if you'd like to share your smiling, maskless faces with us safely. But there is no need to be Instagram perfect, y'all. Okay, just because I got real fancy and actually washed my hair today does not mean that you can't come to us with your messy buns, your furry coworkers, your kitchen table offices. It makes no difference to us, okay? Don't stand on ceremony. We want to join you where you are. Oh, we got people coming in from all over the place. Kelly's chiming in from Akron down to the AK Rowdy. Hi, Kelly. Thanks for coming. We've got Pamela from Chelmsford, Massachusetts. We've got Sujan Maiti from Mexico. We've got Naji, who's among the Tonga people that in their area. Linda's in Boston. Emmanuel's in Los Angeles. Hi, y'all. Dana's in Michigan. Sienna in Long Beach. Allie in Denver. Emma in St. Louis. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us today. Oh my gosh, Barcelona, Salt Lake City. Poland and California. Oh my gosh, y'all. I love seeing this. This is one of my favorite parts about hosting international chats. Okay. All right, so we're going to go in today, and I'm really excited to introduce you to our speakers from Skillcrush. But before I do, I just want to share with y'all their company page. So let me share my screen here. I wanted to share with you what their company page looks like on powertofly.com. Now, once you are there, obviously you need to be logged in because I am not logged in, as you can see by this over here. But this is what Skillcrush's landing page looks like on powertofly.com. Now, from here, you can do all kinds of stuff, check out a bunch of posts by them. You can also go in to Skillcrush's company page on powertofly.com, and you can check out open roles there. You can also look at open programs. So hold on here. Let me stop sharing my screen and bring up our lovely speakers today. The other thing I want to highlight for all of you is for participation is your ability to ask questions. So if you have questions today, I would absolutely love to hear from you. Now, we're going to go over a bunch of questions that we kind of had predetermined to discuss with our speakers. But if y'all have questions or you want to lean in, dive deeper on a subject or something, please feel free to let us know. You can always jump into the group chat and share them there. You're also welcome to DM your questions to me if you would like your question to be raised, but you want to be kept anonymous. So absolutely, please feel free to jump in there. Now, I'm very excited to welcome David McDonough and Sebrinia Welch to the stage today. So let me add y'all up here. There's David. Sabrina, I just lost you. Hold on here. I'll find you in my list. David, before we bring Sabrina up on stage, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Yeah, I'm David. David McDonough. I'm the Get Hired program manager at Skillcrush. Yeah, I oversee the career services portion of the Skillcrush programming, kind of managing student flows and working with career coaches and delivering career services myself. And Sabrina was with us a little, just under a year ago. And I'm excited to have her back and have her talk about her experience. And so we're going to kind of like look at the Get Hired experience, first through Sabrina's experience of it and the job search. And then I can answer any questions, that go more specifically to the program.
Awesome. Sabrina, what would you like our audience members to know about you before we dive in today?
Yeah, so hi everybody. I'm excited to be here. My name is Sebrinia Welch. I'm based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and my two furry coworkers are with me sleeping underneath the desk here. But I'm a UI designer for a small agency based out of DC called Foresight, and I we'll talk about a little bit about my journey, but this is actually a career shift for me. So I've been in the UI UX space for gosh, probably just a couple years, but formally, like with this role, under a year. And so I'm excited to share my journey, and hopefully help out and answer any questions that you all have.
Excellent. All right. Now, I do have to ask you, apologies, it is off topic, but I have to ask the names of your two fur babies that are under your desk.
So my eldest is Bo. He is 12 years old, so he's my old man. And then my little girl Tempe, she's 10. So I have two very sleepy but elderly dogs that I just absolutely love and call my pups.
Oh, I have a 12-year-old too. So we're on the journey of like, oh, are you old today? Is it a bones day or a no
Yeah,
bones day?
exactly.
All right. I'm really excited. I'm going to be sharing some links in the chat thread to where you can check out Skillcrush. You can follow them, all kinds of good stuff. But David and Sabrina, I'm going to take a step back. I'll be here if you need any assistance.
Great. Yeah. So, I think that there's the job market and then there's the individual searching within the job market. And I think I'm excited that Sabrina, you've come back to talk to us because I think that you and a lot of like the intuition you had coming in and the moves you made and the way that you use the program really successfully are things that like other job seekers can learn from and apply in their own case. But I thought maybe it's helpful. Yeah, you mentioned being a career shift, a career changer. Can you just like talk to us a little bit about, a little bit about your background, where you were before Skill Crush, and then like what led you to an interest in UI UX design?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually my initial career, I was in education. So I was a school counselor for 10 years, both school site-based as well as district-based managing a school counseling grant. But I was out in Denver, living and working there. And I definitely through the pandemic was really, really tough, but persevered. My partner and I had an opportunity to do something a little bit different, which required me to take a step out of education, at least at that point. And due to that, that just gave me a little bit of an opportunity to kind of process what that may look like, what I wanted to step into, what was going to make me happy. I was really burnt out and trying to find, I guess, a space and I guess keeping busy and doing something that I enjoyed and that actually filled my cup. And so my transition actually led me into, I kind of stumbled into digital marketing. So I started a blog. We were traveling, starting a blog, and I noticed a couple of my friends who own small businesses were like, I would love to help on my website, like I like yours, let me help you, or would you be willing to help me? And so that actually kind of led me into just dabbling into using website builders. So like Squarespace or Wix,
Hmm.
building some and helping them enhance their websites. And that got me thinking about, okay, what about digital marketing? How do we connect with audiences? And I kind of self-taught myself through that. And what I found through that was just really enjoying the design process. Like in
Hmm.
education, one of the things I really loved was advocating for my students, advocating for my communities, the families I was working with, and a lot of the small business owners and even nonprofits that I was doing some volunteer work. I found this opportunity to say, I think there's a way we can connect with your audiences and try to amplify your stories. And that's something that I really wanted to do. And what I loved about kind of the work that I was doing within digital marketing was more of like the website design, like actually not just the designing of the website, but understanding like how would a user approach this and what are they getting and how do we want them to move through the pages to get the information or the things that they're looking for, which led me into being like, what is this? And finding like UI UX as I guess a career or industry that I wanted to learn more about.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that you effectively described something we ask people to do as sort of an exercise, like often, thinking back to prior work experiences, sort of like what motivated you, what like, gave you energy, what sort of like, yeah, got you up in the morning effectively, and what do you want? So therefore, what do you want to do more of? That can help sort of like guide you in the direction of, if you're still questioning like exactly which role should I try to target, what gave me energy, what made me, feel less fulfilled or felt draining, and so maybe minimize roles that have that aspect and maximize the ones that have that kind of like, energy giving experience to them. So okay, great. So then like it was UI UX, and then maybe just briefly, I know we're largely talking about the Get Hired program, but so you entered it through the UI UX track. What brought you to Skillcrush? You can speak to the design program and the Get Hired track if that was part of the decision making.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was looking into programs that would help me get a little bit of, I guess, not formal education, but structured
Hmm.
learning opportunities. And so I looked at different boot camps, and they were quite expensive. But if I think um, my partner and I were talking, and if it was the investment we needed to make, that was something to think about. But I wanted something that was asynchronous but had structure, like
Hmm.
had touch points, I guess, and that was affordable. And one of the things that drew me to Skill Crush was the affordability of the program. Being completely transparent and honest, right? Like,
Sure. Yeah,
but also the
it's a real
fact that
consideration.
yeah. But in addition to that, knowing that there was opportunities for like real humans that I could actually
Hmm.
like hand assignments in and get some feedback from, even though it wasn't face to face or like a scheduled chat. Though that there was that too. So I one of the things that I recognize about myself is in order to thrive, I'm the type of person that needs structure. And so
Mhm.
that was something that asynchronous work was great as long as there was like structure for me and opportunities to like touch points throughout the journey to keep me on track and keep me kind of where I was going. So that was one thing I liked. And then the fact that there was that Get Hired program after the fact, after completing the curriculum, having the actual career support after the fact. Um, I don't know. I had been in education for 10 years, so it had been a really long time since like actually looking for jobs
Right.
and applying and interviewing. So knowing that I was going to do kind of this big leap into something different, into the tech industry, made me appreciate anything that was going to help me get back, like get those skills back that I hadn't used in a while.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Right. Yeah. We don't, yeah, often some of us don't, yeah, job search many times. And so it's like not something we're constantly exercising. Um, cool. So yeah, let's talk, I guess, maybe some specifics about the Get Hired program, which, for those of you who don't know, it includes, I mean, to generalize, it's like we start with sort of like a resume writing class with a resume review, an interview prep course, a job search class, and then these weekly sort of career group check-ins where you're meeting with a group of your peers to sort of like, discuss wins, struggles, and strategize about the next week ahead. Um, I guess, yeah, I don't know if we can just like go through it like bit by bit and sort of like your experience of these things. What was helpful? Like, what did you learn? How were you successful? I mean, the sort of like resume component, which also includes, um, creating a LinkedIn profile, and then in your case, making, you had your design portfolio, making sure that's ready to present. Um, I don't know. What do you remember about the resume course? Did you have one before starting this class? If so, how did that change through the course of the class? Was there anything that you found particularly helpful in your case as someone transitioning from education, a little bit of digital marketing into UI UX design?
Yeah, so I did have a resume previously, but I hadn't updated it since I left education. So like I had nothing from my experiences or the work that I did as, in digital marketing, kind of the in between. So I guess in my mind I had an idea of like what the structure of a resume should be, but in terms of like what was going to speak to the like essentially the audience that I'm applying to, um, that was really helpful to kind of understand bullet points are important, but here's how to speak about the skills in the bullet points. And I feel like my educational resume was very much like, here are the schools that I worked at, here's what I did within those schools, here's the professional development I've done. Whereas I feel like, at least for the roles that I was looking for, it was like, what are the like itemized skills? What are the platforms you know? And so like, how do I showcase that stands out, and also these like itemized bullets of things. So I appreciated the opportunity to like learn like what would and speak well, what was needed to be presented, but also getting feedback from, again, like my career coach, Tiff at the time, giving like very itemized feedback of like, can we say this in this way? And can we pull data
Mm.
points from this point? So being able to also process how to not change, but like, here are the bullets for my educational past. How can we make that speak in the new industry that I'm going in? So transferring those skills into something that was meaningful in a different industry.
Yeah, there's totally like a little bit of a cultural and mindset shift going from from any industry to another, but yeah, from
Mhm.
education to tech, certainly. And yeah, I think that's exactly the kind of thing that is so common, is sort of like, well, I know how to write this resume, but I don't think that this is the resume that people want to, if I'm looking for a design job, people don't want to pick up my resume and say, well, I think you'd be an excellent school counselor, but we're hiring for a designer. Um, cool. And then yeah, I guess like then that's like sort of one part of in the program, how to present yourself. And then the next part is like, let's say that goes well, you get interviews, and then that's a whole different type of presentation. Um, in the interview class, was there anything from that you felt, helped you prepare particularly well when you did actually get a real interview? Or, yeah.
Yeah. So I think twofold. So what's also nice about the Get Hired program is that each, like, I guess, category. So like when you think of resume, mock interviews, job strategies, all of them were like presented very similarly to how the design course was, like the actual coursework and curriculum. So it was like a little bit of like asynchronous work, which included a structural activity that actually, where you're building, you know, something within that topic, and then you're handing it in and you're getting feedback on that. So one of the things that was helpful with the mock interview was getting a whole host of questions that could be asked, and then one of the activities was like, okay, for the first five, really develop your answer for it. And so spend some time on that. And of course, giving you some strategies on how to create more of a story, not just like an answer to the question, but more of a storyline that pulls in not just your skills, but transferable skills, um, like the hard skills, soft skills, but also like telling more of a story around the question, and then
Mhm.
handing that in, getting feedback. And then the second layer to it was actually doing the mock interview. So having not, in a, I had done some interviews for different roles within my educational experience, but I hadn't interviewed for probably, I don't know, like 7 years, like
Right.
previous to that, because I stuck, within my district. I was in the same district the entire time. So, in terms of like trying to seek for a job, I hadn't done it in a really long time. And so having someone actually, even though I knew it, I knew it was like it was mock, right? And I knew it was a practice, but being able to get live feedback from a human of like, all right, let's practice how you'd answer this question, but then also let's dissect that a little bit. And is there a way we can strengthen that a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, it's just, I think this is just how we're wired as humans. Most, like a lot of us, is kind of like we can practice in the mirror, but then it just, once you put even one person in front of us, someone we know, it's a little bit, it changes the dynamic. It makes you sort of, you get butterflies, and
Mhm.
and I think that's probably good. Yeah, and just I don't know, maybe I'm not sure that did I sort of like explain this clearly just for the audience members. That is sort of like the two part. We have like an interview class which prepares you for the interview, as Sabrina described, and which is also describing as then the sort of culminating activity in that class is to meet with a career coach who pretends they're a hiring manager, and they interview you as if you were, being called in for an interview. It's a really, I think, important part of the process. And just, yeah, as you described, I think it really helps kind of like, break through some inertia that we otherwise might have if we haven't been interviewing regularly.
Yeah, and
Um,
another thing, if I could just add, like with
Please, yeah,
with the weekly sessions too,
yeah,
one of the things that comes up is like if someone came in and was just like, I got asked this question and it was really
yeah.
challenging. I think it was like we had 90-minute sessions, right? Where I think I don't
If
remember exactly how.
45 minutes a week, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay, so they're a little bit smaller, but being able to
But it felt like you got
break into
90 minutes
probably,
yeah,
but like the opportunity to break out into like small groups and say, here's a question, let's
yeah,
practice with each other. So I mean, it wasn't just like a one and done, like, I mean, there was one mock interview that was like end to end, me solely with the career coach, but to be
yeah,
able to have occasional times of like bouts of practice with peers also, um, even if it's not like exactly like, oh, you're a hiring manager, let me answer this question, but the ability to process like how could I answer this, and
yeah,
allows me the safe space to stumble a little bit, but then give feedback from the peers to say like, what if you were to talk about this or add this in, or I like that part, focus more
yeah.
on that.
Yeah, you don't want to be workshopping in front of the hiring manager, right? But
Mhm.
yeah, doing that with your peers is helpful. So let's go to the yeah. So then that's kind of like, again, we're sort of like generalizing the program, but then maybe the final leg is this. We do have like a job search class specifically talks about the process of finding job postings, applying for them, doing the outreach you need to do, and then as Sabrina mentioned, once you're job searching, you meet weekly with a group of your peers to check in. There's accountability there. There's community building. There's these, as Sabrina described, practicing some of the things that you're going through, kind of on a weekly basis as you're job searching. Yeah, any like I don't know if you want to just talk like about anything that happened in the sort of either the job search class or the weekly group check-ins that were particularly helpful, or that I don't know, were there any like major epiphanies from like that portion of the program that you want to speak to? I know
For
you did just
me,
talk to us a little bit about something that was helpful, but yeah.
yeah, I think it for me, it's that it goes back to one, the structure of like having something ongoing. That
Hmm.
was like every day that was slightly like, not that there was a hard line that said, because we had the challenge of and I guess it's not a challenge, it was the goal of applying to 30 applications a week,
Right.
which was a struggle. We'll
Yeah.
be very honest, but it like at least there was a sense of accountability to know that I was going into another class, and not that we had to call out and be like, how many did you do out of your 30, but at least knowing that I've made additional progress from the previous week. So that
Hmm.
was good to have, is that structure. But also I think for me, I thrive in community too,
Yeah.
where I can collaborate and learn from others. So one class was showing their incredible tracker that they use through Notion, and I would never be able to like
Mm.
build a database like that, or I could if if I took the time, but like just to see how they structured that, created that, but then also how that helped them make decisions in terms of prioritizing how much more time they'd go into one thing because it met more of the things that they were looking for in a job versus others. But um, just learning how people approached it, or success stories, that was always really motivating. And then of course like learning from each other's challenges, and working through it too. So I think just the community that was ongoing, knowing that I had that every single week, was kind of
Hmm.
nice. And then the accountability aspect too.
Yeah. Yeah. And we try not to put people on blast. That's not like the goal, but the accountability, I think, is what you're
Mhm.
describing. It's like sort of like a self motivation to show up, and I'm going to show face. I want to talk about something, um, yeah, that I've done. Yeah, totally. Those are the two things that, yeah, I hear people often would echo that. And, it's like, it's the accountability, it's the community. So, yeah, that's great. I mean, is there overall anything that you can, speak to in the Get Hired program that you think, or that you think the Get Hired program really provided that you would not have found on your own? And I mean, it's impossible to say, but it just like if you could kind of measure, like, yeah, how do you think this would have gone without it, and versus how it went with it, the Get Hired program?
Yeah, I
The
think
job search and the get hired program. Yeah.
yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was just like having the momentum. I mean, I don't know if I'd like to think that I would, without it, still would have been prepared, with the design portfolio that I had and the skills that I got, and to find something, but to have the momentum into this actual search, like actual this, I don't want to say speed in which everything was done, but at least being able to feel like there was just this, yeah, energy towards, like, really concentrated energy towards finding a role in the new industry that I was looking for, and all of these touch points throughout. So I think that was probably the most helpful out of it.
Yeah, no, and I mean it's exactly that. Like the momentum piece is so important in the job search, right? Like, yeah, it's you really it's like you want to start to pick up momentum and then and really sort of like build steam as you're going, and the more you can do it, the yeah, the more successful you are, and the more quickly. So yeah, that's great to hear that you felt like that really helped. I think we, Meg, we're sort of like that's the end of our sort of like interview and talk to
Got
Sabrina
you.
about her past experience. Maybe I know we have some audience questions. We could
Yeah.
dip into those. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We did have some good ones. So let's
Cool.
see here. Now, the first subject obviously we wanted to cover is the career transitions into tech.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people transitioning right now or trying to. Now, one of the questions that came in early on, you covered this a little bit, but could you tell us a little bit about when you started the pivot process? Like how timeline, what did that look like from I think I might need to pivot to I'm actually doing this, movement forward? What did that look like and what was the time frame like for you?
Yeah, so I think so, like, time frame for me, you're talking about like pivot from education, right? So I left my role in education so at the end of the school year in 2021. So that was May 2021, June 2021. And I started the program, the Skillcrush program, in October 2023. So it was like a good, I think, 2 years of like just trying to find, like, and then like building to, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And so I think during that time, it was a lot of exploration. I kind of took a little bit of hiatus. I was burnt out and I didn't want to work in education. I was like, okay, let's start a small business. So, like, I started doing digital marketing for my friends, for like volunteering for them. But then I was just like, how can I get paid to do this? So I tried to like, was like, let's be my own owner and own my own business. And I recognized that, one, I am not a queen bee. I am a worker bee. So I liked having, not that I need people to tell me what to do, but at least give me a goal, then I can strive for it. And
Well,
so
these are good
being both,
distinctions though. Like
yeah, yeah,
being able to pivot is knowing how to market yourself, and to do that you
yes,
need to have a somewhat good idea of what your strengths are, weaknesses as well, but like also things like your preference. Because truly, like if you're pivoting into a new role, obviously there's gonna be roles where you kind of have to pay your dues, or you have to like, work in the trenches so you understand things, but it doesn't mean that you should, how do I put this? You should assess yourself accurately, but don't be too hard on yourself. Does that make sense?
yep, absolutely. Yeah. And I was finding I was way too hard on myself. Like, I was like employee and boss, like, and I was just like, I don't like both of those roles. So it's just, I think, yeah, so during that process, it was okay. I know I need to stick with this for a little while, like, or, because I've got clients that I'm working with and these projects I'm working on. I'm recognizing throughout this timeline that I actually really find myself enjoying more of like the web design, like building websites and that experience, and not so much social media strategy and support that I was helping with some of the clients, or copywriting. I was also doing some copywriting for them too. And so just recognizing like, okay, I think I want to like hone more into this, and I don't want to be my own business owner. So and then also thinking, okay, what are those skills that I like the hard skills, the technical skills that I'm going to need, and how can I get those? And that's, so I would say, yeah, it took probably about 2 years to like kind of assess that.
Yeah. Well, and I think I like talking about this because it's different for everybody, but I like trying to illustrate for people that these changes don't happen overnight. The decision
Mhm.
doesn't even happen overnight. And that's okay because these are major life things. I mean, you're talking about changing the industry or the setting or whatever of where you spend the most of your waking hours. So that's a very big deal.
Mhm.
Um, all
Um,
right, now, oh, go
can I
ahead, David,
actually,
please.
yeah, no, I just want to like point out something that's like, I mean, I think um, about sort of like Sabrina's example here, like I love that. Yes, it's sort of like it's not like you flick a switch necessarily and you went from school counselor one day to then UI UX designer the next day. And there was a lot of sort of like trying things out and then understanding what worked and what didn't work, but also just the fact that you were sort of like actively doing that you found projects to work on. And I think that's something that is like sometimes hard to relay to people, but that's actually one of the beautiful things about like a lot of technical roles is it's like I think you can build apps, you can build websites, and you don't need anyone to hire you to build it. You can work on personal projects, and I think that some when I see people who are coming in job searching and they just are working on stuff all the time and they're really excited about it, I think that is really often a difference maker, and people feel that when they do kind of like reach out and interview. And I think that so I think just I like that's like one thing I want to kind of like point out about your example as well is that you were actively doing and building projects and working on things and kind of iterating on sort of like, yes, this, no, that, let me move further in that direction, but all the while being active and doing. And I think that is, part of, I think, what made your transition successful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that people don't necessarily keep in mind is that like you need to budget the time it's going to take you to do
Yeah.
this and
Yeah.
be realistic and be nice to yourself because you can spend all the time in the world coming up with, okay, here's how it's going to go. And I'm going to train for this long and I'll spend this much time polishing up my skills and then I'll go start applying to jobs. And by this point, I'll get a job. It can be like that, but for a lot of people it isn't. So I
Right.
think it is really it behooves people to make sure and kind of take into account, give yourself a realistic idea of what this might look like, and also come up with like, okay, if I'm not able to do such and such by this point, then what is plan B, what is plan C?
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, a lot of people wanted to know kind of the easiest route in. Like, what are the most strategic entry points into tech if you've got somebody who's transitioning from a non-technical background? How can transferable skills be positioned to attract recruiters? So, as you were doing this and you were talking about your transferable skills coming out of education, this
Mhm.
is an excellent example, but what were some of the transferable skills that you identified?
Yeah, and so one of which is communication. I know that sounds so cliche, but like one of the things I found in both digital marketing and user experience and design, like you have to communicate what you're doing, whether it's through like the website or the web page or the design you're creating. And one of the things that I found like that I feel like I've gotten a lot of feedback of like, oh, like light bulb kind of thing is like, and as an educator, I had so many
Mhm.
different audiences I had to speak to. Like how I spoke to a student was going to be very different than how I spoke to my principal in terms of like how I wanted them to listen and absorb what I was actually trying to say, versus like community members, parents, higher ed, district people. So I think that's that was something that I recognized that, oh, I have this skill to be able to connect to various different audiences and know not necessarily what I wanted to say, but how they needed to hear or see or perceive, like what messages that we needed to connect them to. And so I think that was a real big transferable skill that I think is really important, which lends itself into like kind of marketing yourself and kind of adjusting and showcasing what the audience that you are speaking to or your hiring managers or people that you're applying to are wanting to kind of capture or are looking for. So I think that's
Okay.
big. I think also I didn't recognize this, but like until I was starting to think of skills of like, oh, I did have a lot of different technical skills that was coming from the previous role I was in. Like I did data work. I did,
Hmm.
design flyers for programs I was doing. I was organizing projects and programs. And so those kind of big, like what seems like big keywords, I was able to actually feel comfortable putting that on my resume and also show like knowing how I would not defense, not the right word, but like express like why I felt like I was good at the program management or design skills or data analyzing data. So um I think that was the other thing is just like kind of recognizing what are the like these keywords and like, oh yeah, I know I've done that, it just looks different, but I can communicate how the process in which that I've done that skill.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I don't know was clearly explained to me at any point in the numerous times I was job hunting, post graduation, was like you are leaving a breadcrumb trail for the hiring manager. You need to make it, and I'm not talking crumbs, I'm talking drop loaves down the path
Hmm.
because you want to make it as easy as possible to say, you want this, here's how I did it before. You want this, and I used the underlying skills to do this in my previous role. So I don't think it was ever made super clear for me that like you're on a deadline, right? You're trying like people when hiring managers are going through these things, they're going through at a clip. So you need to make sure that you make it unavoidably clear how A connects to B. And I think you're right. There's a lot when you think about it in the basics, you strip down those skills from the specifics to like the base like, function. That makes it a lot easier to be like, that is kind of the same mechanism that they want me to be employing over here. Or these programs are built using the same system. So yeah, I learned this, not this, but the same company made both of your programs and the setups are the same. So I have no doubt that I can transition very easily into, your next program. Um, Love this. Okay. We've got about 20 minutes left in the chat today. So if y'all have questions, send them in. I've been grabbing all of the ones that I'm seeing both in the main chat as well as in the Q&A bucket. So please, y'all feel free to keep sending those in. Okay, we had a lot of people, and I'm sure it surprises no one. There's a ton of people that are doing a transition into tech, especially following a career break or layoff. Now, post-COVID, I think it's gotten a lot more socially acceptable or professionally acceptable to be like, yeah, I took a break because I needed to take care of my family or I had, illness to handle or blah, blah, blah. But if people are trying to transition after a break and they want to make sure they're staying relevant in the market, is there a specific way that you heard these kind of breaks talked about? What should people know if they're trying to transition post break?
I think like processing how you spent your time, like and develop like what are the skills that you utilize during that break, then to be able to speak to it. So, I mean, I feel like my time in between, like where I say I was a small business owner, I mean, a lot of that time was trying to like assess what did this actually look like. So yes, I did a few projects, but it took a lot of time to like try and find those projects. So I wasn't working on like projects 40 hours a week, during that time. I mean, so I think the biggest thing was just, I think David had said this before, is just like doing things during that time that, is not, maybe it's not making you, an income right away, but it's being able to like build your skills and being able to create talking points about in which you can put into bullets on your resume, but also speak about during that time too. So one of the things that I did as I was just trying to process is I kind of said I did a little bit of copywriting. I just decided, I feel like I'm a pretty good written communicator. Let me see if I can find some way to volunteer. So I was looking at ways to volunteer remotely since we were traveling a bit. And so I found this platform called Catch a Fire where professionals can connect with nonprofits. Nonprofits have these like projects that they need some support with, and it's a completely volunteer thing. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to start like volunteering as a copywriter. And so I applied to some projects, interviewed with them, and if they felt that I was a good fit, I kind of did it. So it was like anywhere from, just helping them craft little bites for different pages or handouts or whatever the case may be. But yeah, it kept me busy, but it was also something I was able to refer back to of like, oh, this is a nonprofit I've worked for doing this project, so I get these little talking points through volunteering or skills that I was doing.
I love that. It's called catchafire.org. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I
Thank
saw
you.
Bethany just drop in the chat.
Yeah, Bethany, thank you for dropping that link. I appreciate it. No, I think that sounds amazing. And it really kind of reminds me, I've got a friend right now, granted, she's not in tech, she's in copywriting. And she is using her skills while she is currently unemployed, to write copy for a bunch of the activist groups in the Toledo area that are planning protests all summer. And so she's using her skills to donate her time to these various groups. So now she's got a ton of writing samples of things that she's done for these
Hmm.
various groups that she can then point and be like, yeah, and here's how I've kept up, my SEO optimization skills, and here's how I've done blah blah blah. So I think you're right. I mean, it's a really good way to kind of give you ideas, especially if you don't have a portfolio, but you're trying to put something together. That way they're kind of not all one note sort of things. And it also shows that like you're good with working with clients because you've gone out and said like, hey, this is something I want to do. How can I utilize these skills for you? So I think that's great. Let's see here. We're getting a ton of questions in the chat, y'all. We're going to try and get to as many of those as we can. All right, when it comes to resumes, portfolios, that kind of thing, how important do you think it is to tailor your resume to a specific role? And what's the best way to do this without seeming scattered?
So I'll be honest, so I did two different resumes. So I start off with one. It was just my UI UX resume, but I was also looking into some UX researcher roles too. I do like data, and so I was just like, well, maybe some of my analytical like skills would be beneficial. So I did actually create a separate UX researcher resume. I didn't get any sort of hits on anything. So I don't have any like success stories around that. But in terms of like not being scattered, I think I kept it simple with just two. One thing I will say is that I kept the experience, so like the high level like position and job titles the exact same. It's just the bullets were slightly adjusted. So the bullets on one would speak to, the UX UI skills, whereas the other ones was more of like kind of talking about the analytics or any sort of data that I worked with or research practices or things that I did to kind of, showcase like an end-to-end process. So I think I kept it simple by only having two. And then as with our like trackers, so one of the things that I had with the Get Hired program is that we had this big spreadsheet. I was able to just I created an additional like column where I was like, okay, which resume did I send? And I had like the drop down of like, okay, did I send the UX design one or did I send up the researcher one? So that at least kept me organized to understand where it went. And so if they got back to me, I knew which role it was actually for.
No, I mean that's a really good point. And there's times in my job history, if you've sat in on more than three of these events, you probably know that I've done, oh my gosh, so many different things, like at least six different industries, and I'm 39. So when I was applying for things, if I was applying to, because at one point I was applying to paralegal roles, I was applying to like admin assistant roles, I was applying to all kinds of things. And so I had a massive, I called it my master resume that had everything and every job and every way I'd ever described it in it. That thing is still there. I believe it is like 8 pages right now. However, like, so every time I made a change, I dumped everything into that. So it's got everything in it. And then you're right. I went through and I said, okay, here's my resume, like my base resume for admin assistant. Here's my base resume for paralegal, because obviously that was a little bit more skewed to the legal avenue and the research and that kinds of things. And that way I didn't lose, I didn't have to think like, oh man, I applied to a job like 3 years ago and they asked the same question. And I know that I responded really great and I loved how I phrased this part of blah, blah, blah. Then you don't have to go back and look for it. It's right there. When I was doing this in the Stone Age, I would have a copy of the application that I submitted in longhand because we're 1,000. And I would have a copy of the resume. So that way, if they called me back, I could flip to it in my Trapper Keeper because again, I'm 1,000. And that way I could know at a glance, like, all right, here's the resume that they're looking at. But that way I never lost any of the other stuff, other work that I had done in, describing or rewording or, trying to explain, how A connected to B. So I think these are great ideas. I love, love, love the like have different ones and know which one you sent. That's incredibly important.
I think, yeah,
Oh, go ahead, please.
Just to like my take on that question too is it's like it is important to be very like focused and direct in a single resume that you submit. The general wisdom I hear spoken often is that the more senior the role, the more important it becomes to customize specific bullet points. And so yeah, it can be case by case, but yeah, the thing is, I think it's exactly just the point. You don't want to, if you are applying for a developer role, you don't want to sort of have you don't want the recruiter or hiring manager pick it up and say, "What role are you looking for?" That's I think the moral of the story. Trapper Keeper,
Yeah.
totally amazing. Love that.
Listen, I saw one on the shelves the other day and I was this close. I was so close to getting it. If it had like a 3 wolf moon on it, done. Unfortunately, it was like, I don't even know, like an aquatic scene or something like that. Okay, let's get some more kind of audience questions in here. Okay. This person had asked, okay, we want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn, and kind of how that could work in a job search. A lot of people wanted to know if LinkedIn played a role in your job hunt. And did you get advice on, optimizing your profile, posting content? So let's start from the jump. Did LinkedIn play into your job search?
Actually, funny enough, it kind of did. So I actually have a couple success stories with LinkedIn. So one of which is my current role. So this is a unique like way is so I found the position before I like finished my design program. The company had a position open and I didn't feel ready to apply for it. And so I was like, all right, if it's still up when I get done with once my portfolio is approved, I'll apply. But it wasn't up there. But what I did was I reached out to the agency and I sent my resume and my portfolio and I said, I love what you do. It aligns with my values. If you ever have an opportunity for me to help, like to get connected, or maybe as a contractor or something like that, I would love to work with you all. Didn't hear anything from them, just fine. Like it's just a cold drop, in their contact form. A month later, I got a message from their VP of strategy on LinkedIn saying, "Oh, I just saw your portfolio. It looks amazing. Like, I love that you have your dogs. I love dogs too." Like, it was just like the most random thing. He's like, "Our president's gonna like reach out to you." So that was it. It was just like to connect, but then it spurred on something a little bit more. Another thing is one of the encouraging things is to prospect your application. So once you submit your application, find somebody, email them. But I'll be honest, that's not really super authentic to me unless I feel like really inspired to do so or feel like connected to the role. But I did that. Actually did that for a couple on LinkedIn. And I actually got one that I got a response back. I actually applied with their application. Then I sent a message and did a whole prospecting like, I just applied. I'm really interested. Would love to connect. If there anybody I should also connect with. Not expecting anything. The next day I got a decline or a rejection on my application that is submitted. But then an hour later, I got a message from their like it was a small company in Minnesota. And so it was their president who said, "We'd like to invite you to an interview." And so like I got the like automatic rejection from the application. But I think if I hadn't done the prospecting email or the message on LinkedIn, I don't know if they would have reached out, but I got through to the final round. I didn't get the job, but that was kind of an interesting success story. So we did get some feedback on like how to build your LinkedIn resume, just or LinkedIn profile a little bit, but nothing about like posting content. I don't like social media, and I see LinkedIn as a little bit of that. I probably should do more like posting in terms of like showing my professionalism and more information about what I'm doing, but I haven't. So in terms of connecting though, it seemed to work.
I like that.
Yeah,
David, did you have anything you want to add?
yeah, I can just share. I mean, I think that is the kind of thing that we in terms of like posting, sometimes we'll do rounds of that in the groups. There was and I think that is something, some recent success stories. Like, yes, Sabrina, I'm totally with you. It is social media. I think then we have to like think of it as like a social media tool that can be used to a certain end, and then we need to be careful of some of like the pitfalls of social media. But I have two really recent success stories. Just someone, job seekers, commenting on someone's post, and sort of someone at a higher level posting something, one of our job seekers replying saying, demonstrating that they found it compelling and that they were gonna, and they felt connected to that post, and one of them got sort of a like kind of coffee date with one person, and the other one, I think it opened up a kind of a DM conversation on LinkedIn that then eventually turned into a recruiting interview. So yeah, it is a place to. I think it's that personal connection is the important part, and when you can break through the sort of I don't know, the shell of the social media that is more anonymous. I think that's when it makes the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I hear constantly, because I get to sit in on a lot of the conversations around this, one of the things I hear constantly is to follow the people that interest you, and then like and comment on a couple of their things. Especially if there's anything in there that makes a personal connection with you. Don't do it all the time, but like when you do have a chance to, it's a really good way to kind of build up that history. So then even if you are reaching out kind of cold to someone who you've never actually met or spoken with, you at least have that history of like, oh yeah, and they've been following me for a while. Who is this person? Oh, okay, they've liked and commented a bunch of my stuff. Like, I think that is, you're right. It is a little bit of a game. It is definitely, LinkedIn is no longer today what it was when it started, 15, 20 years ago. It's definitely a different beast. So I think that is really interesting. There are a bunch of trends people are discussing in the chat. So obviously that's something for another day. But if y'all have questions about LinkedIn, we have entire chats that are about this subject. So I'll share some links in the chat thread as we go here. Now, I know, Sabrina, we might be losing you early, so I do just want to take a second here to say thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing your expertise. All the prep work that goes into this event beforehand does not go unnoticed. So thank you very, very much for joining us. It was lovely to get to meet you and hear more about your experiences today.
Yeah, absolutely. I can be on for a few more minutes. I do have a client meeting right at the top of the hour, but yeah, happy to answer a couple more questions.
Perfect. Okay. I wanted to make sure we didn't lose you before we said thank you. All right. We got more questions here. All right. Beyond applying on job sites and using LinkedIn, what non-traditional networking strategies have you used? What do you think has worked best for you?
So the my example or the role that I had with currently was found through just applying on their chat. Like I saw that they had a position open, then it was closed, and then I was like, let me just drop something in their contact section. And so it's an agency too. So I feel like some of the agencies they're open to like whether it's contract work or they're opening, maybe have um some positions open frequently, but also recruiting agencies too. So there was a couple different like recruiting agencies or hiring agencies. I'm trying to remember, but like that seemed more than just like a churn pile or like so I reached out and actually just if they had a contact form, I would just submit my information. I didn't get anything from them, but it worked with my current agency that I just thought I'd try there. So I think that was really great. I think another thought, like not quite traditional, but maybe like attending like a conference of some kind or an online conference. There was one that I had done where it was like a women's tech event, and it was online. I joined it, I connected with a bunch of people, but it just helped to broaden my network just a bit more. So I think that's an opportunity there too. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but
Oh,
At
sorry, Meg, you're
least
muted.
once, at least once per event, I lose my mute button. It's like one of 3 tasks I have. No, I think these are all great tips. I love this. I'm trying to check the questions here to make sure I'm not missing anybody's new questions, which are really, really good.
Do you want to just, I know we've got like just a few more minutes.
Like
There's
2 minutes, yeah.
maybe it's too much of a teaser, but the AI questions, or
No,
there's
no,
like,
I think that's a good one. Yeah. Lots of people wanted to talk about AI, what that kind of the impact of that has been. So let's kind of open up that subject. When it comes to AI, how have you seen it impact, especially in regarding to like, applications and what the hiring process then looks like?
yeah, well, okay. So I think there's like a sort of this question of, you know, if you're looking for a role as a developer, how much hands-on AI experience do you need? And I think that like, yeah, maybe there's sort of like using AI to help you code. There's building AI-enabled applications, and then there's like I don't AI programming, deeper machine learning stuff. I do think that by and large, you're going to need to be able to use AI to help you code, and more than likely, that will be something that you should be able to sort of like demonstrate, or at least sort of in the conversation. I don't know that it's like it's a new thing, so it's like it may not be an absolute requirement that you have years of experience doing that, but I do think it's something that if especially now if you're like just starting out learning to code, start to use these tools to help you. And yeah, and I think that AI will not do all the coding for us ever. I think we'll always need humans to go in and sort of use AI, but I think that you need to know how to use it. Can sort of advance your coding. It can accelerate what you can do with coding, and you should be able to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Was it, or is it me? Sorry, there's also the AI in the writing resume thing. I don't know if that did I answer the wrong question?
No, no, these are all good
Yeah.
answers because we've got people that want to know about, using it. Most of what I'm hearing is it's a great idea to use it as a jumping off point.
Hmm.
But that you, especially if you're asking it to write things for you or, your cover letters, that kind of thing, use
Oh
it as
yeah.
a jumping off point, but do not expect this thing to churn out ready to go. Don't just say like, I need a letter. Great. Not going to reread it. Sending off. Awesome. Like that's not really how you can utilize it best, I would say.
yeah, I think one thing I'll just say my 2 cents in this is
Yeah.
like I think look at your workflows and see if that where you can make efficiencies or where it can help refine. So a couple things is like I saw a couple comments about it utilizing it for cover letters or like drafting up emails that you might do for prospecting. But also it helped me with my resume if I knew that I had this like list of bullets, but it wasn't fitting on one page, like sending it
Yep.
to ChatGPT and say like, how can I say this the most succinct way? And hopefully I'm like losing a couple more lines. I mean, so little efficiencies like that is
Yep.
super helpful. But yeah, like you said, Meg, like make sure that you have the human element to it. You're always reading it. Make sure it sounds like you too. So that is really helpful. I have to jump off to a client meeting. So thank you all so much for hosting and appreciate
Thanks so
it.
much, Sabrina. It's great seeing you.
Thanks, Sabrina. Honestly, that's going to be it for us today as well. I'm sorry, y'all. I know we did want to try and get to as many questions as possible. We tried to get to as many. I grabbed all the questions that were asked, so the Skillcrush team will have access to those. But y'all, thank you so much. David, thank you so much for joining us today. I
Thank you, Meg.
loved
It's
getting to sit
wonderful.
back and watch you and Sabrina. But thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your experience. It's invaluable to all of our audience members. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you for hosting, and thanks to everyone who came today.
Of course. All right, y'all. Now I want to echo David and say a massive thank you to all of our attendees today. Whether today is your first event or your 50th with Power to Fly, I sincerely hope it will not be your last. So I would hope that y'all go out and have the day, week, weekend that you deserve, have the day you voted for. And just even if you are not the little treat person, y'all just took 60 minutes out of your day to do something positive for yourself and your career. Okay, that's not easy. It's not a simple thing in this day and age. So whether you're a little treat person or not, listen to Meg. Okay, give yourself the gold star, the cookie, the pat on the back, the coffee drink. Maybe not Starbucks is all I'm saying, but truly, y'all, reward yourself. I love that you come to these events because you obviously I have a job, but I love it even more that y'all are doing something positive for yourselves. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to spend with Power to Fly and Skillcrush. And we cannot wait to see you join us again on future events. That'll be it for us today, y'all. See you soon. Bye.